attack, fast fatal heart impact, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and packs. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet out. Get ready for defeat now.
The fate of us all now rests in you. Hail to the king. Alrighty, hello everybody. This is Kiru's show here, and yes, now that I finally got that what if Mineta out of my head, I can actually think. I've had that in there all day. If you guys are confused at what I'm talking about, go over to my channel and look at it. You don't have to watch it, but be aware that one of those what ifs now exist. Now, with that being said, okay, alright, I'm focused. Let's begin. We'll start with everyone. Back at base. Everyone is looking around and staring at Bakugou. She is a member of the CCG, and some of them looking at her simply think that she might be a half ghoul, one of those hybrid things that they usually sell. However, she's not restrained and she's not tied up, nor dead, and a lot of them do recognize her. Some of them know her as a butcher, a killer. Others gave her a bit of a nickname. The nickname, well, people don't usually say it out loud, and usually whenever you hear it, it's because you're either running for your life or trying to get away from her. Since she usually turns every ghoul in her path into Swiss cheese. Now, with that being said, we do have everyone. They do talk with Bakugou and get her properly set in. And Yoshimura does actually try and get her a room. Now, eventually later on into the night, Midoriya, he is laying in bed with Eto and Momo, as he's simply just laying there awake while the two are sleeping, his arms wrapped around both of them, as he's simply just trying to think about it, and going over those memories in his head, along with some of the glimpses he's been getting. Now, that is not all. He's beginning to remember the red dress, what he saw, and there it is in his head, clear as day, a song that he can remember, but events that he cannot. And there's a suit, what is it? I can't think of it. The color, what I was wearing, deludes me. However, that thought is quickly interrupted whenever he does actually hear his door open. As soon as that happens, he immediately points his finger in that direction and gets ready to use his Kagune and wrap it around his arm, so he can quickly shoot in that direction in case it is a member of the CCG, or a threat. Since he is king, some people do usually try to assassinate him, or try to kill him. He's only ever had one instance in his own compound. Meanwhile, that isn't really a problem. Everyone listens to him. Now, whenever he does actually watch what happens, he does see Bakugou, as she's simply just standing there in the doorway. And she actually does walk in, and try to see if Midoriya is awake, to which he doesn't really respond. so he's just staring at her as she slides in underneath the blanket and is laying on top of Midoriya. As soon as she slides to the top of it, Midoriya quickly moves his arms out from underneath these two. As they shift over in bed, he wraps them around her, simply asking her in a whisper exactly what is she doing here. Her not saying a single word, before just looking away nervously, and looking over to her right. There is this unknown girl. On her left is Momo. And, well, yikes. This is getting a bit weird. She's not too sure how to feel about it. Her simply just saying that she couldn't really sleep, and that she's really just thought about what to do. And the two have a bit of a conversation. Now, their conversation goes as following. She is talking about the CCG, and what they'll do if they find out that she is alive. Midoriya is simply just asking her why didn't she try and run away again? Why didn't she just try and leave again? Her explained that she tried. However, that's why they put a tracker on her and sent her straight off to training. Or the brainwashing places. The places teach you to hate everything that is not human. But then look at me. I'm not human anymore. I thought you were monsters, but look at me. I'm a monster. An abomination. Midoriya, freezing for a minute. In his mind, he knows something is wrong. And the next words that slip out of his mouth slip out by accident. Him just laughing at her for a little bit. And telling her that if she was a monster, she wouldn't feel that way. If she was a monster, she wouldn't have emotion. She would kill recklessly. Someone like what he does. He's killed recklessly before, but these two stopped him. They helped him. His blackouts don't happen. And he was able to calm the hunger. Her next question being about exactly why. Why are they always hungry? Him not giving her an answer, as he runs his finger across her cheek. And she actually does feel his hands. Midoriya is simply just telling her that she's not a monster. She's perfect just the way she is. As she gives him a kiss. And eventually, these four do wake up. Eto and Momo, they're not really surprised. However, Yoshimura, whenever he does knock on the door, is a bit surprised to find that their guest is in this room now. Yeah. He's not going to even try and question it. He's kind of just done. After his daughter snuck in there one night, and Momo, he kind of stopped trying to ask his questions. The boy's a good leader, natural born, and was actually somewhat like a son to him. So, he can at least respect the boy, since he's at least had the opportunity to see him grow up in place of his daughter. Now, he does appreciate the relationship with his daughter, but finding these two together, he kind of doesn't really like that thought. But he can worry about that later. Now, with that being said, this will be happening over the span of a couple months. Midoriya and all these three, they will be working out, getting Bakugou accustomed to her abilities, and trying to actually get her stronger. The CCG finding that another Ghoul is alive, and teaching her how to manipulate her RC cells. She simply did one thing. She turned back her hair color. she turned it back to a blonde color, before simply deciding to turn it black. If she has it black, then it's going to be less conspicuous, especially whenever she goes on to wearing the mask. Now, along with that, she also does one thing. She decides to go out and visit her mother. She knows it's a risky chance. However, Midoriya and everyone else will be coming along with her. And they all do manipulate their faces. And Bakugou, she actually does know a bit thing or two about hacking now. Or at least programming. Since she asked if Momo can get her hands on any of those bracelets. If she can get her hands on them, then they can have access to walk around freely. That being at the eighth month mark. Now, along with that, Momo obliged, and the day she got them, Bakugou showed them a little bit of a trick. The hacker, who they usually find or get another one, yeah, she simply told them exactly what to do. It's a difficult process and they need someone who's good at programming, or at least good in science. Or with electronics, really. It's kind of a mix of all three. Basically, what you do is you remove the identifier and the prongs that poke in your wrist. Basically, you put in a regular sample of human blood, and the sample will stay preserved. And this sample usually does dry out or gets, well, it does eventually scab over, you could say. And the hacker, not only does he treat this blood with some fluid, he also does do what Bakugou is telling him. And eventually you do have 4 incognito bracelets. No prongs, no worry about the expiration of the blood. And when the CCG people do scan them, they will not find any abnormalities. However, the chemicals they use to treat the blood is considered to be a medicine, and they will have papers on them to tell them about the medicine. Since some people with quirks, they have to go through certain things. As long as you have the paperwork, you're fine. Now, Bakugou does provide useful information for the ghouls. And she actually does help slowly stop those decreasing numbers every day. As she does actually visit her mother. As soon as she did knock on the door, yeah, her mother opened it and was a bit annoyed and angry. However, Bakugou, she simply immediately just rushed forwards and hugged this woman, who tried to push her off or push her back, as she spoke her name. Hi, Mom. Mom? Who the hell are you? Pulling back. Her simply just manipulating her face back. She only changed small details, along with her hair color, but even then those are important things. Mitsuki immediately pulling her into the house, and beginning to somewhat cry, as all 4 of these people are welcomed in. And she does ask them if they would like anything to drink. Anything like coffee, tea, or whatever, while she tries to talk with her daughter. Now, with that being said, as soon as Midoriya does throw off his hood and manipulate his face back, she somewhat freaks out. And Bakugou, yeah, she has to explain what happened. Explain that 2 years ago they faked her death with a surgery. Or, yeah, sorry, Mom. They try to say I died, because if I actually do legally actually kick the bucket, then they can simply just throw me away and not use me anymore. Most of us who do survive the operations, we live. we don't die. However, we're considered less than human. Government property. It's not fun. Mitsuki outraged. And, well, just turned to Midoriya and stare at him as he slowly sips his coffee. As he simply just says that if she has a question, please just ask it. Her about to shout her mind, before looking back at her daughter, then looking at him, and asking if it's really true, if he is the one-eyed king, if he is a ghoul. Midoriya confirming, with a simple yes. Now, she doesn't really know how to feel. A boy she's seen grow up his whole life. Yeah. He's apparently this monster who murders people and eats them. In fact, the CCG once gave a statement saying that he's eaten over 2,000 to 3,000 people. Possibly just in his lifetime. Yet, that's only the people they have identified. Possibly. He is considered to be a complete psychopath. However, he's calm, he's well thought out. Yeah. The CCG's information on him is clearly all wrong. It's all made up. As eventually, the conversation shifts from what's been going on in her past to what's been going on now. The CCG every day get closer and closer to perfecting something that they are creating. And there is a bit of a running theory. They can't prove it's true. And they do need help. Now, Mitsuki, she tries to stay out of this, simply just saying that her coming here and asking for help was a mistake. If they find out that she's helping them, her daughter, who's allegedly dead, do they know that you're alive? No, Mom. I faked my death. Again. And I actually did get away. All thanks to Izuku. Her looking at Midoriya. The look on her face. Yeah. That's clearly love. And she's kind of at a crossroads. If she doesn't call the police and report them, she is going to go to jail. However, if she does, she's never going to see her daughter again. And Midoriya, he completely pulls apart the look on her face, as he tells her that her conundrum is easily solved. We're going to walk away. In fact, we can make a scene at your front door. Then call the police. Her just staring at him confused, and asking if he's really sure he does not have a quirk. My mom trained me for everything I have ever known. I don't know a lot of it, but what I do know is useful, and what I've been taught is good. So, simply call the CCG. Call the helpline. And say that there's someone who looks like your daughter outside your door. Then, we'll leave. Simply start shouting and making a commotion that you called the police. Doves will be set out, and we can escape. Alright? Yeah. Jeez. You were really cold? Calculating? Kinda. I was gonna say strategic. You have to be whenever every day you can be faced with extinction. Sorry. It's not your fault. It's the CCG. They don't want peace. Seems like everyone forgot about that. Yeah. Now, Midoriya and everyone do leave. As they do the plan, the commotion gets set up, the CCG is called, and they leave. And Bakugou, she actually does at least feel better. Now, with that out of the way, let us cut to the rest of the 4 months, as it is the end of the year. And there is a bit of a problem. Everyone here has been thinking. Everyone here has been talking. And Bakugou does actually bring up a question to Momo and Eto, asking them about, well, the thought she has. Them asking, well, answering her questions. As Bakugou brings up the idea of getting married to Midoriya. Both these two simply just staring at her. Her going on to say that she thinks she's just crazy, but she's kind of had a thought about it. Before these two basically just look at each other, and so they just look back at her. Simply saying that they've kind of been too busy with what's going on right now. And basically being, well, in the middle of a war, you kind of don't want to get married. But that's just it. Her idea is good and solid. And, well, it's not really on the table right now. But they do bring it up to Midoriya, who simply states that he would clearly and gladly marry all three of them. And after their war is over, the ceremony will begin. Now, with that out of the way, Midoriya and the rest of the ghouls today do have a good idea and a plan. The plan's going to be easy. They're going to assault another CCG warehouse. Or compound, you could say. The place poses as a warehouse where a lot of stuff comes in and a lot of stuff comes out. Every single day. Day in, day out. And Midoriya is going to find out what's in there. The hacker cracked the computer and found the schedule. The girl with a quirk, or the half-ghoul child with a quirk, is usually moved around. And she's been moved all around the globe. The computer they have gives them access to certain things and certain information. The girl is coming back into the country. She spent some time in Germany and Paris, being poked and prodded. And they're bringing her back here, since they've decided to finally put an end to it. They are going to perform some final tests on her, then dissect her, thinking that this will be the ultimate way to unlock her anatomy and the potential for hybrids. Now, Midoriya and everyone, they arrive, as they are all outside of this warehouse. And Midoriya gives a speech, simply yelling at the top of his lungs throughout the entire wind that a lot of them will possibly die tonight. However, the information and what they will be going through, it is going to be vital. This child is somehow important. And if they can prove her importance, then it might be something. It might be a possibility. Midoriya just praying for a minute. This child, they simply call an abomination. A one-of-a-kind ghoul. And Midoriya intends to find out what that means, as he leaps off the building and directly turns into his owl form, smashing straight through the top of the building and alerting the CCG, the men stationed here at the secret facility, posing as workers, all of them immediately pulling their Quinqués, and some of them having Quinqué guns, or I believe they call it Q bullets, and getting ready with them. As soon as Midoriya does stand up, he is in his ginormous form. And it's actually begun to be refined, and it looks sleeker and slimmer. And Midoriya no longer has to somewhat reside in the head. In fact, he's more or less inside the body now. The head is big enough for you to mistake that. But that is where he has to be now. In fact, it actually does also give him a bit more control over this ability. Plus, he can still actually bite into and completely saw someone in half with his teeth. Now, all the ghouls in the warehouse, they simply just start to fight and start to attack, tearing through and biting off quite a bit of the CCG as they're going for it. An assault and an attack. As Midoriya simply tries to smash through the earth, punching down and down over and over again as hard as he can. Eto actually joining him. Two ginormous owls. And then you do have Bakugou, who simply, whenever she does get close enough, she's able to steal a Quinque and immediately start using her AP shots. As soon as she got a giant gun, you could say, she simply turned it and turned it onto a different setting, as she's able to blast out quite a lot of power. She's basically able to blast off cannonballs. Now, with that being said, Midoriya and everyone is being assaulted, and the CCG do actually bring in a ginormous weapon. They decide to stroll in with a tank. They've had it here in storage, and they should be expecting owls. Now, this was also staged here in case they did have to completely shut down the city and start public executions of owls, or even ghouls. Since if a large group of them were to try and step in, the piercing abilities of a tank shell would be able to cut one in two. Now, Midoriya and Eto simply do look up at this, as a tank shell is fired. Midoriya immediately throwing out his hand and immediately smacking Eto out of the way, as her giant Kakuja goes flying towards the wall. Midoriya simply bringing up his hands and blocking his entire body. As this thing tries to dig into his arms, it smashes directly into them, and it actually does offset him, causing Midoriya to actually drag backwards into the ground. The claws on his feet simply going backwards 10 to 20 feet. And Midoriya, he simply watches as this tank shell is stuck directly into his armor, him bringing his hand up and ripping it out, and simply just saying one thing: my turn. As the mouth opens, and out goes a large blast. Now, this actually does shock the men inside the tank, as this blast drags across the floor and goes upwards, completely cutting the tank into two as it explodes. And Midoriya does actually walk over, as all the men in the CCG who witness that are completely shocked. That is not possible. They did not just see that. Now, Midoriya digs his hands into the earth, where he scorched it, and simply rips it open, as he rips out a large chunk of cement and tosses it over. All of the ghouls jumping out of the way as Midoriya straight up flattens members of the CCG. And he jumps downwards into the facility. Now, with that out of the way, okay, I do believe that will be a good point to leave this off of. I was going to try and make this longer. Fuck it. Anyways. Now, after they basically rip their way into the facility, they do one thing. They get to work. Quite a lot of the ghouls they have with them start flooding in and begin to kill and take down quite a lot of the security members. Apparently even the CCG keeps things a secret, since this place looks more like a prison than a research facility. Then again, it's both. Now, Midoriya and everyone, they find out that they're not the only ghouls remaining in the city. Down here is probably 1,000 ghouls or more. Maybe less though. They're not too sure. As they simply begin to rip and tear their way through everyone in their path. And Midoriya did have to decrease his size. Everyone running through. And eventually, one man steps out, and everyone hears his footsteps. Midoriya simply just throwing out his hand and telling everyone in front of him or behind him to stop, as he slowly begins to walk through the crowd. And even the CCG is frozen, and simply watching what's going on, as they're in the middle of a pathway, floating above probably 100 feet from the ground, probably 200 or 300, he doesn't know, stands the only man who's ever managed to do so much damage to him. Midoriya is simply just staring at him. He has an eye patch. Well, that seems fitting. And one arm. Doesn't seem fitting. Then again, there's that jacket. He's probably hiding a weapon in there. And Midoriya simply jumps forwards. The CCG frozen by what's about to happen, as you hear Midoriya slam down with a heavy thump onto the metal, as it begins to reverberate. And Midoriya suddenly just starts talking. Why, hello, Amari. Eye patch. Long time no see. You're telling me. Last time I saw you, I took one of your arms, and an eyeball. How are you? I'm fine. I'd say though, I thought I took your brain. I swore you had one. Oh, ha ha. It's gonna take more than a knife to my brain to kill me. Next time, try the whole thing. Get a cannon. Oh, trust me. I assure you. As he just begins to pull down the jacket and take it off, telling Midoriya that there will be no next time. Watching as he sees this. Looking to see Detective Amari's left arm. Confused for a second, Midoriya realizes something. That arm isn't his own. Him just bringing it up and saying, it took a while, but research has come far. In fact, this actually did help out quite a bit. So, even you became one of us. Oh, one of you. No, please, trust me. I wouldn't do that. I simply took an alternative route. Quirks. Not ghoul body parts. I still eat food. You know what food is, right? Cuisine. Then again, all you do is eat flesh and blood wine. So, I offer my condolences to you. Huh. So, quirks? I'm guessing you harvested those from people. Humans. Where'd you get them from? Oh, don't worry. We only took the convicts. No innocent man or woman was harmed. As Midoriya simply manifests his Kakuja. The full thing. Everyone simply watching as he begins to grow in size. And the thing starts to form around him. Now, Midoriya goes on stating exactly what does he mean. You took a child. You took her from a mother and a father. He knows about the overhaul guy. Really? If that's the case, then I believe that you might be perfectly aware of her quirk. Rewind. What is that? Rewind. Quite a nifty little ability. Amari says as he draws his weapon. Simply just saying that she was able to rewind him and give him back the life he was going to lose. Fortunately, that came with the process of giving me back parts of my body. Damage that was done. Trauma I have suffered in, well, slowing down my aging. In fact, I want to say I am actually physically in my prime at the age of 25. What are you talking about? You are only 30 years old. Ah, well. If you live, I'll give you an explanation. If you die, well, have fun in hell, monster. As Amari rushes forwards, and everyone watches this battle. As soon as the two clash, this is whenever all the ghouls rush in, seemingly pouring over this barrier, and beginning to run on the walls and climb up. All of them trying to simply get in, any way possible. While Midoriya and Amari, I'm probably saying his name wrong, I don't care at this point, they begin their fight. Midoriya simply actually surprised by his speed. The man is physically faster, especially more than last time. As the two go back and forth, Midoriya trying to slash into the man actually trying to fight him, while the man simply just keeps dodging and maneuvering around. Midoriya then releasing his Kagunes, and simply immediately releasing ginormous wings, and blasting in his direction. The man jumping high. As soon as his feet do touch the wall, he jumps up once more, and throws out his hands, grabbing onto a piece of a pathway and immediately swinging his body up, as he goes to dive downwards directly into the head. Midoriya knows what he's doing, immediately aiming upwards and blasting, knowing that the man cannot dodge in midair. As the man, he dodges in midair. Surprise, surprise. It's all about the way he shifts his body. And, well, apparently that Quinque might be a bit different. So, let's see how he is now. Midoriya, then having his tail, immediately fly over his back. And multiple Bitkakus, I believe they're called, begin to fly at him. The man immediately just dodging one and immediately grabbing onto it. As soon as he touches the tail, it begins to try and poke outwards at him, and try and get spiky. Him actually caught off guard by that, as Midoriya's other tail flies directly towards him, going for his right arm this time. And he actually does try and dodge out of the way, before it does at least stab into part of his arm. It is a shallow cut though, and the man immediately begins by slicing upwards, cutting off this tail, then immediately trying to push off of it, towards Midoriya, coming in and trying to slash away directly at the head, being able to cut part of it off. And surprise, surprise, there's no ghoul in it. Him realizing exactly where Midoriya is, as he does one thing. Midoriya shrinks down, and decides to conserve his energy. He was able to best Amari in his other form. So, let's do this. A fair fight. Something they've always had. However, he's too bulky. He's too immobile in that form. So, this is how it ends. As his arm simply manifests like this, and his body is covered in this new form that he's created. The two simply rushing towards each other. Now, as they rush forwards, both of them can see the look in each other's eyes. They are both fighting for something, and Midoriya can tell, as he brings up his arm and immediately is able to block the Quinquet. The man simply just dropping it down into his other one and trying to pierce Midoriya into his body. Midoriya simply just smacking it downwards and grabbing it by the blade, as he holds onto it and tries to actually throw out his left hand to fight the man, who simply tries to stab downwards with another knife. Midoriya knows that tactic and he's not going to try falling for it anymore, as someone takes aim and tries to take the shot. As soon as a gun fired, Midoriya simply threw up a tendril, and immediately was able to block the bullets, taking the shot with that thing. As Bakugou, she simply ran forwards, and was able to actually grab the man, being able to slap the gun upwards and take it from his hands, before unloading the magazine directly into his body. Amari simply looking away for a second, and seeing her. As soon as Amari looked away, Midoriya took that opportunity, smashing his head forwards and immediately hitting Amari, and breaking his glasses, as he actually does back away, jumping off. And you do have a tense moment. The King versus the False King, a battle for the actual title. Now, with that being said, Amari does actually take a look around, and seeing that most of the facility is going to be taken over, as he just tells Midoriya that he's actually glad he was given a second chance. His life, it could have been something else, but he ages too fast. His body wore and tore down on him, and he was given a second chance. Really? What do you mean by that? Well, I was a human, yes, but I was born differently. You see, I'm part Ghoul, you could say. I was born without abilities, and it was quite simple. We age too fast. We age differently. It happened to me, and it will happen to you. In fact, all the hybrids have it happen to them. Our bodies weren't meant to last. We weren't made to either. So, that girl gave me a chance when my eyes were still flickering, and she gave me back my sight. I cannot thank her enough. Really. So why do you lock her in a cage? Because it is my job. I start a revolution. I started something else. So, I must tell you, are you going to kill me or not? Really? What title would that be? It couldn't be mine, could it? No. That's right. I am the current one-eyed king. You bastard. You son of a bitch. Yes, I know. I abandoned you all. I did so because I knew you would take my place perfectly. You gave me more room to work, create plans. However, you were too aggressive. I was going to get information and come back. And I couldn't. Especially not after that girl. She was important and special. That is why I abandoned every one of you. That is why I abandoned my entire species. Your species? Don't make me laugh. You exterminate us. You gave up. I'm fighting. I'm still fighting. So, are you going to kill me? You're goddamn right I am. As Midoriya rushes forwards. And one thing does happen. As soon as Midoriya throws out his hands, he immediately stabs directly down into Amari's gut. And the man does not react. Simply just letting it happen. as he falls onto his knees. Midoriya, completely shocked, simply yelling at this bastard to get back up so they can fight. Get up! You don't understand it. I'm telling you, I'm done fighting. I can't do this anymore. I'm done. Congratulations. You are the king. Midoriya being completely enraged and screaming at the man on the floor. Before, Amari does one thing. He drags his way to the ledge, simply throwing himself over it, and falling to his death. As there stands the king, alone. Everyone watching as Amari's body hit the ground, and looking up. Midoriya directly after Amari, simply smashing down and landing directly in front of him. As soon as he sees Amari's body lying there, no signs of life, he goes on a complete rampage, throwing his hands upwards and screaming out in anger. As this anger is potent, and is infuriating. Midoriya doing something no other ghoul has. He pushes himself over a boundary. And if you were paying attention, looking closely, you would see what happened next. Whenever Midoriya threw himself into his Kakuja, both of his eyes looked as if they were lit, black and red. And he began to tear his way through everyone in front of him, smashing his way through every single prison cell, smashing through it and murdering everyone, until he stands there, completely angered, and surrounded by bodies. Taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out, as someone stabs him directly in the back with a sword. Midoriya is simply just looking down at the blade before grabbing it and ripping it straight through, turning it around and watching this person's shocked expression. Midoriya throwing it to the ground as he throws up his hand and stabs them with a Kokaku. Midoriya completely in shock looking at it for a second, as he simply just pulls the blade back out of their face, and their body drops to the ground. Midoriya heaving in breaths, as he stares at this thing, the blade around his arm. And he simply just walks towards the door, and slashes upwards at it, cutting it open, before walking in. There they are, scientist and detectives. Midoriya throwing out his hand, and the blade simply just elongating, slashing and stabbing through a few of the people. And Midoriya throws out his other hand, as his Kagune throws itself off of it, and simply steps into everyone around them. As everyone simply just stands there, in disbelief, looking around the room. As Midoriya simply pulls these things back, and there it is. The child they are looking for. The ghoul that they are looking for. And Midoriya walks over, ripping the gas mask off of her face. They were about to cut into her. Luckily, they were here. They were waiting for orders to continue, or to try to evacuate. Staying on standby. Bad move. Bad call. Midoriya just picking her up, and beginning his walk. This thing is still wrapped around his arm, and he just can't believe it looking at it. As every single ghoul there is looking down, as they hear the king's footsteps. And whenever he does walk out from the darkness, they are in shock at what they see. Very few of them find it hard to believe. Others simply call him the Chimera. Since The king has shown all 4 Kakujas, and has proven he is worthy of his title. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and have an amazing night. I'll catch you guys in the next part.